Think about carbs. You want fuel while you're on the mat, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to move and all that stuff. So think about carbs. Protein is so important. Don't get me wrong. Protein is the king of macros. But when we're looking at a performance part or performance lens, carbs are your best friend.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today I have Kelly Chall. She is a fitness coach, particularly running now. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, from the Clearwater, Florida, and she is she's been somebody that my wife Lindsay has been in contact with over the interwebs for quite some time, and just a very inspiring profile on there. And so Lindsay's taken a lot from that. So I invited Kelly on here today because she's got a lot to say and a lot to offer in regards to, you know, fitness and motivation and all the stuff that good coaches do. So Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is great. So tell us who you are. Where'd you grow up? What did life look like as a kid?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Kelly Chall. I'm from Clearwater, Florida. I am a native Floridian. I've lived here my whole life. I was born in Orlando and then moved over to the Clearwater, Dunedin area in middle school. So I've been over here on the West Coast for most of my life. I am married. It'll be 16 years this year, and we have two girls, a 7-year-old and a soon-to-be 14-year-old girl.
Oh man! So
yeah.
You say Florida is the whole Florida man thing really true?
Yeah. There are some parts of Florida you never know what you're going to see on the side of the road.
It is a wild thing because when I first heard somebody say something about Florida man, it was one of those things where I went, I do hear that term a lot, and
yeah,
I'm always curious if down there if you experience that.
Yeah, picture a guy in like cut off jean shorts, probably a mullet, holding a beer, and like an alligator right next to him.
That's the Florida man. Huh?
Yep.
So in the area you guys are at, is there a lot of gators there?
There's kind of this joke where someone's like, this is the way you tell if there's an alligator. Touch the water, and if it's wet, there's a gator. So basically, any body of water there can be. We are like 10 minutes away from Clearwater Beach, so we're more towards the beach. We don't have a lot of like lakes and kind of swamps around us, but like middle of Florida, that's like gator central.
We have family in southern Mississippi, and but the gators tend to be mostly towards the coast. They used to live 5 minutes from the Gulf, and there was a ton of gators around that, the swamps and bayous there. But it was now they've moved about an hour inland, like north, and you don't see them up there. So yeah, it's fun. That is fun. So what drew you to coaching?
Yeah. It took me a little while to figure it out because I went to school for education. I have a degree in exceptional student education, or special ed. And so I started my career as a emotional and behavior disabled teacher. So I taught middle school. EBD is the acronym for it. I taught that for a few years and then moved into kind of general population teaching. And then I had my first daughter. And then since then, I've kind of had a lot of little careers, but they all boil down to teaching and coaching in some way. So I was a teacher, and then I was a tutor, and then I was a doula, a birth and a postpartum doula, helping women through their pregnancy and birth, and then postpartum after that. And then from there, I went into fitness coaching. I got my personal training certification, started coaching outdoor boot camp classes. Meet me at 5 a.m. in a parking lot 3 days a week in the mornings, and then in the evenings I did that for a while until I found a virtual kind of fitness and nutrition company, and I worked with them. It started as a coach and then moved into a corporate role with them for the last I was there for about 5.5 years, kind of being able to coach and train on a much larger scale with it being virtual, but all of them boil down to being able to help teach and coach people I always say I love when you see that light bulb that goes off, like you're trying to tell someone something and then you say it in a way and then they're like, oh, they figure it out, or you just kind of help them get enough confidence to be able to know that they can do it. And then I don't know, there's just something about seeing somebody believe in themselves, or actually seeing them see what's possible. And so that's always kind of drawn me to the education, the coaching, the teaching kind of side of things.
That thing you just said, when that light bulb moment, the fulfillment you feel when someone's just, because you can see it, right? You can see it in their face, and all of a sudden it's like clicks, and then from then on they're different. And I so identify with that. That is, I don't know if you know, but I'm a jiu-jitsu athlete, right? I play in that game, and I coach there, and I love it. I'll spend hours and hours and hours studying how to say something, like you just said, in such a way that it clicks with different people. But then I find like it'll click with one person, but the person sitting next to them doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I have to phrase it differently to get that one to get it. So talk about that a little bit. What do you do to try to cater to that? What things are you looking for in that student, if you will?
I think the biggest thing that I learned and then was able to implement when coaching is it's not so much about what I'm saying, but it's about what they need to hear. So instead of giving them more things to do, it's asking more questions. And in my last role in that corporate position, I worked with a lot of coaches also that would come for advice, or we would have like workshops. And one of the biggest things that I would say is ask more questions before you start to change a workout plan, or change a nutrition plan, or change the way somebody's going about something to get their desired outcome. Ask them, because a lot of times, clients are saying one thing, but they're actually searching for something different. So kind of those layers of questions of asking them, okay, why do you want to do this? Great. Why do you want to do that? And you kind of get a few layers down of the whys, and you can kind of, from there, their answers, be able to rephrase the information that you're giving them in a way that helps them get to the real reason, if that makes sense, of what they're going for.
Give me an example of that.
Yeah. Let's say somebody says, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay. Why? Well, I want to feel better. Okay. Well, why do you want to feel better? I'm tired during the day. Okay. What would be better how would your life be better if you weren't tired in the middle of the day? Oh, then I would come home and I'd have more energy for my kids, or I wouldn't want to take a nap. Okay, well from there, probably what you're dealing with, it's not so much you want to lose weight. We don't want to pull your calories back right now. We want to make sure you're fueling yourself adequately. You're getting enough movement throughout the day to kind of carry over that energy. So you might think your problem is you want to lose weight because you tie that to energy, but we want to look at the other, you're not having as much energy because you're under eating and you're under fueling. You're kind of running out of fuel by that second half of your day.
That's a good point, because sometimes we always go to that like, well, I just need to cut my calories in order to lose some weight in order to feel better. But sometimes, and I know that's a lot of, when my wife was in that coaching program you're talking about, that was one of the things, is that fueling. You gotta keep enough gas in the tank.
Yeah.
Do you when you're talking about, again, motivating people, do you find that, what are you looking for in someone to get started? Is it just their initial interest, or is there something that you see that gives someone a higher probability, or you see a common factor between those that will succeed? How's that? That's
that's a really great question. I feel like a lot of times it boils down to, well, first of all, you have to have that drive, that why you want to do it. You have to want the outcome more than the comfort of not putting in the work. And I think in my coaching, especially now with my running coaching that I'm doing, the people that I see that are succeeding the best are the ones, they're very, not so much type A, but they're very much like, this is what I'm doing, next. Like, they have their training plan, and it's that structure. They need that structure, but with that structure is the mindset work of that belief in, okay, this is your plan. It might seem overwhelming, but you are capable of doing this. What can we work on? In my coaching, we work, it's kind of I call it a triangle. So we focus on training, we focus on nutrition, and we focus on mindset. Because if you take one of those out of the equation, you're not typically going to be as successful. And our mindset will stop us way before our mind will stop us way before physically our bodies will stop us, for the most part, especially when it comes to running. We can talk ourselves out of things before we actually need to. So it's, having the mindset component to go with that drive is what I have found. My clients that are most successful are the ones that will really work with me on those mantras. What do you tell yourself? What is your self mantra? What do you say when you're in the middle of something and you don't want to keep going? What do you say when you don't feel like, doing your training today? What are those things that you're telling yourself? What are you identifying yourself as in order to be able to hit your goals? So there has to be a balance, or at least a combination of that drive to want to do that, but then also that kind of work with your mindset of being able to sometimes just talk yourself into doing what you need to do.
You talk about talking yourself into something. I was just telling Lindsay this morning, I was on a run Monday, and I just hit that point. It was I got out late, and so I was already kind of past that nutrition curve where I was a little over the hump, blood sugar wise, and it was hot, right? It was a hotter afternoon, and so I got out there and I'm like, man, I could have went this morning when it was cooler. But I got to about 2 mile point, and I started feeling that, just the fatigue, that I was as far as long runs go, that wasn't a very long run, but I started feeling it. I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, maybe I should start walking. But I was like, I only have a mile to go, so let's just keep going. And it was like, I'll just make the next mailbox and then the next corner. But you talk about that conversation that goes on in our head. And I think the thought came to me at that point. I was like, yeah, this is hard, but it's not that hard. So I should be able to just keep going, and I'll just try to think about something else until I get to the end. And is that what you're talking about, that self-talk that rattles around in our brain?
Absolutely. And I love how you said, one more mailbox. I love using a visual, especially when you're kind of in that slog. You're like, even in the middle of the run, or you still have a mile or so to go. It's not like the finish line is right in front of you, right? When we see our finish line, we're more likely to, that last push, that kick at the end to get there. But when that finish line is way out there and we don't see it, it's really hard sometimes to motivate yourself to get there. But if you can look ahead and say, okay, I'm going to run till this driveway. All right, I got to the driveway, I'm going to run to the next driveway. Okay, well, I'm already here, I'm already doing this. You just kind of talk yourself into it, because we can easily talk ourselves out of it. So if we just reframe what we're thinking or what we're saying, then we have the power to either continue on, or the power to be like, no, this, I don't want to do this anymore. But I always tell people, like, you didn't come this far to just come this far. If you have gotten up, put your shoes on, and got out the door, keep going. You didn't do that just to walk out and then turn back around and go home. Like, you've already done the hard part of saying you're going to do it, getting out there and doing it. And if you give yourself those little increments, those little wins, that's going to help push you forward. And another thing I work with my clients is saying to yourself, I am a runner. I'm going for a run. Not, I'm going to try and get 2 runs in this week. If that's how you start your week, you've already halfway talked yourself out of it. But if you say, I'm doing this, you've already committed to yourself, you've already said it either in your head or out loud, and you've already identified that that's what you're going to do. So that helps a lot of time, and it was a switch for me when I started this run streak. Instead of being like, oh, when am I going to do it? Or it went from am I going to do it to when am I going to do it? So there was no question. Every day, there's no question of if I'm going to run. It's just when. When am I going to run? And then I learned pretty quickly that I have to do it in the morning. Otherwise, like you're saying, it gets hot, and then I don't want to run at night. So it's just kind of, you build on it. You say, this is what I'm doing. Okay, now that you've made that decision, the next decision is easier, because you've already made that first decision. So instead of being like, maybe I'll do this, maybe, make that decision and then move forward with it.
That is so good. It's not if I'm going to run, it's when I'm going to run. That is a huge mindset. I never really thought about it from that perspective, because everything I do that I do on kind of rinse and repeat sort of a thing. It's not. I never ask myself if. When I go to jiu-jitsu practice, I don't say if I'm going. I'm just going that night. I am.
Right.
Unfortunately, the win
Mm-hmm.
is already there because it's a scheduled class, right? So it's,
Right.
yeah, that is good. Dang.
Mhm.
Um, do you find that getting a client to switch that gear in their head is that the coach's job, or does that have to come from that person?
It's a combination of both. It's like, people say you can't force somebody, you can't make a smoker quit smoking, right? You can't force somebody to do something if they don't want to do it. And I'm sure you've had experiences, we all have, with friends, with family, with clients, where we want something so bad for them. But if they don't want it for themselves, you're talking to a wall. Now, granted, sometimes they'll listen, it'll just take a little while. But if the client says they want help, but then doesn't want to do the things, there's only so much as a coach you can do. There's only so much that you can do, and also you're only going to be so effective if they're not able to do their part, so to say. And that's one of the reasons why I really focus on mindset at the beginning with my clients, because I need them to know, especially with running, because everybody thinks it's just physical. I mean, you can use this in
Um,
any sport, any athletic endeavor. You think it's physical because it is, but so much of it is mental. And when you can help somebody figure out, okay, it starts up here, and then that translates to the rest of your body. So if we can get your brain, your mind in the right direction, then it's going to be a lot easier for everything else to kind of fall in place. But I need you as the client, I need you to want to be able to want to do the work that it's going to take. One of the big things is just kind of pointing out the fact, or talking about the fact that there are so many, typically, so many negative or not good patterns of thinking already.
mhm.
So being able to acknowledge, like, hey, I know that this is the way that culture has, this is, you've thought about running as a punishment. You've thought about exercise as a punishment to yourself when you eat bad. You thought about this and this way. Now we're going to take some time and reframe that. We're going to try to get rid of those years of that thinking and shine a new light on it. So that work has to be done like towards the beginning. And I found it's very helpful with clients to acknowledge that, like, hey, none of us start this in the perfect place. None of us start something knowing everything that we need to know. That's why you have a coach. That's why you go to an expert, because we need help in that. So knowing that we're starting here, we're going to throw away these thoughts. We're going to replace, not throw them away, we're going to replace them with ones that are going to help you to your goal, and not those same negative ones that keep you stuck or keep you starting over and over each time that you try.
You mentioned there, not throwing them away but replacing them. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like a common thread when you're talking about, like, with addicts or something. You can't just pull the habit away. You've got to
Yeah.
actually replace it with something healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you're kind of saying the same thing. It's like we're thought addicts that are just,
Yeah,
we got all this negative crap coming in our head all the time, or negative
absolutely.
self-talk. So,
Mm-hmm. And it's hard. I mean, it's another thing I'll do with even just friends, because how easy is it for us to either deflect a compliment, or somebody tells us something nice, we're like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. Or if we're the first to kind of be self-deprecating or kind of push down like what we say, that's kind of a defense mechanism, right? If we're like, well, if we're the one saying that, then if somebody else says it, it doesn't really bother us. So even with friends, and I catch myself and my children, like, hey, would you say that to your friend? Like, would you talk to your friend the way that you're talking about
mm,
yourself? Would you tell them, they're a horrible person, or this was bad, or this was, like, kind of thinking about how we talk to ourselves affects us just like how we talk to other people affects them. So kind of thinking about yourself as, even though it all happens in your head, but kind of thinking about, okay, what if I was saying this out loud to somebody else? Like, is that how I should be talking, or how should I think about that maybe before I say it?
that's a really good point. If someone else said what we're saying to ourselves, we'd probably punch them in the face,
Right.
right? Do you what do you find when, as a coach, is the biggest challenge you have? Because I know one, just finding clients can be an issue, but I'm thinking back, and here's what's going through my head
Mm-hmm.
is I was thinking back to Lindsay and I used to facilitate a financial training for people, and
Yeah.
we went through some stuff that taught us some pretty harsh
Yeah.
lessons in life and business, and so then the lessons we learned, we like to help other people. But one of those things that we found was, man, most people say they want something. You alluded to this earlier. They say they want it, but they're not
Mm-hmm.
willing to do anything that it takes to get there. Like, not even start. And it
Right.
really was discouraging after a while. So from that coach's perspective, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. And I think faith, fitness, and finances, I feel like all three of those have the same kind of, can have the same ways of doing things. So with finances and fitness, it's that whole idea of you have to do something that you don't want to do in order to see progress. With finances, like, you have to save, you have to stop spending more money than you have, right? You have to, if you're in debt, you have to focus on getting out of that before you can build something. So with fitness, like, you have to be able to say, okay, it might not be fun to give up extra ice cream, or extra foods that don't serve my body well, or I might have to add in more movement through my day, or I might have to do something that I might just want to sit on the couch, but I know sitting on the couch isn't going to help me. You have to be able to move past those uncomfortable things if you want to see progress. And that's kind of with clients. Like, I will tell them, 100%, I am here for you, to help you, to guide you, and I will give you 100%. But if you are not giving me that back, not even 100%, if you're not giving me, the majority of it back, you will not see the results. And especially with nutrition, with fitness and nutrition, I'm not there next to you all the time. So I don't know what you're eating. I don't know what your workouts are. I'm taking your word for it, and I'll believe you until you prove me wrong. But you as the client or the coach has to find a way to try to build the client's confidence enough with the information they tell them, and the way that they talk to them, and the way that they treat them, so that when they're done with their call or their meeting, that client feels empowered enough to make the decisions that are going to help them to continue on. And also continuing to think about the why behind it. So continuing to think about, like, why did I start this in the first place? And when you think about it, especially with personal coaching, like, you're putting an investment for that. In order to have a coach that's personally working with you on a one-on-one, that's an investment that you're making, and I want to make your investment worth it for you. So if you're going to invest the money in it and the time, you know that you need to invest that outside of the one-on-one, the meeting. Like, you've got to do your homework, because you don't want to have a coach all the time telling you what to do. My goal when I was a teacher, when I was a doula, when I did childbirth education, all those things, was for me to give people the information so that they were empowered to do it on their own, to know what to do. And so I feel like if I can't, as a coach, like I said, my job is to teach you, not just hand you a meal plan, not just say, do this, but why should you be eating this way? Why should you be training this way? Why is this beneficial in the way that you're running? And for you to understand that, so that then you're kind of bought into it, you know what you're doing, and you can do it. And you're not going to rely on somebody all the time to be able to, for them to tell you every single step, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. Yeah, I think, my daughter, she teaches fiddle lessons, right? She's a fiddler, and
Oh.
she's got all these students, and most of them are kids, but some of them are adults. But she can always tell the ones who are at home practicing and the ones who are just saying they're at home practicing. And
Right.
she's got this one in particular. We were talking last night. She said she tells me she's practicing, but she's just not getting any better. And I can tell she's not, but she's
Right.
insisting. She's lying to her. Do
Right.
you experience that?
I will say right now with the clients that I have, because it's more personalized and it's more one-on-one, I don't see that right now as much as when I was teaching boot camp classes. when I was doing like virtual coaching, and I had, especially the virtual coaching where I wasn't seeing them in person. Yes, definitely. I would have clients that they're like, I just don't know what's going on. And I'm like, okay, well, show me your food log. Oh, well, I haven't been tracking. Like, okay, well, I can't help you. I don't know what to help you with if I don't know what I'm working with. So I always like to tell clients, like, tracking your food and your workouts and all that, that's data. That's the information for you to take that information and then know what to do with. If you don't have any information, it's kind of like finances. If nobody has a budget, you don't know what you're doing or where things are going or how to fix it if you don't know what's happening. So those clients where I'm like, okay, let's get on a call, let's figure this out, but then they have no information to give. It's kind of the same speech each time, and it goes back to mindset. Like, why are you doing this? What do you want out of this? And do you actually want to do this? Because some people, they'll say that they do, but then their actions prove otherwise. And some of them you just have to be like, hey, I'm here. I'm happy to help you. Right now, I'm not sure how much I can help you if you aren't doing the things that I've asked you to do. And some of those clients will be like, okay, I'll talk to you never, or then they get back into it.
Have you ever had to fire a client?
No, and I only think because most of my clients in the past have been in group settings. So it hasn't been like, I've done group fitness classes, group teaching. Just over the last few months, 6 months or so, have I gotten into more one-on-one coaching, and I haven't run into that yet. But also, I feel like I am trying hard to make it very clear on what my coaching is. And I think having kind of a clear message and a clear lane of what I'm doing kind of not weeds out, but kind of. I've had people, they're like, hey, are you doing this? Can you do this? And I'm like, I would love to help you, but that's not really what I'm doing right now. So, unfortunately, I can't. But so not yet. Hopefully I don't. But
no, that term's fair though. Filtering out or weeding out, right? That's fair, because if you have a very clear vision of what you're doing, a very clear description of what you're doing, and stay in your lane, well, now people who don't fit that, they're going to weed themselves out. But I imagine, it's like anything. I remember there were some students in the financial stuff we were doing, and I just told them, I was like, I don't even know why you're here, because you're not only not doing anything, but you're standing in opposition to it.
Right.
And this is not, there's no reason for you to just keep showing up.
I did have a couple of those, and when I was doing boot camp, and I remember one day I was like, to the guy, I was like, why do you show up at 5 a.m. 3 days a week? And he's like, oh, because I like it. I'm like, you do half the class, and you stand here and talk. But that was his social, you know what I mean? And in that case, like, because it was a group, there's different coaches and stuff. It wasn't like a personal client. But, I mean, with that, it was more of a social outing. But it was also like, you kind of question, like, why is somebody here in a class if they're not there to take in what the class is doing?
It's funny, we do see that in the jiu-jitsu world a lot. And, we realize that in that setting, there's a huge part of it that is the social part. Sometimes it's like some of the best socialization people get. So we're pretty lenient on that. But when it comes time to drill or work on stuff, we do expect them to jump in there.
Right.
But they're also adults. They're paying a bill, so if they want to come and just talk, that's okay.
Right.
Talk about this. Do you find? And again, I hate to even keep referencing the financial classes, but it was part of our church that we were doing these financial classes, and every time we would put an event on, they were generally 6 or 8 or 9 weeks, whatever they were long, and we would give out a couple scholarships, meaning we would pay for somebody's way through there, and those students were 100% failure rate. So talk about skin in the game when it comes to coaching. You mentioned there's a cost to it, right? So talk about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's because they didn't have any skin in the game. And it's a thing. I mean, if it doesn't hurt a little to put yourself out there, to sign up for something, to pay for something, the chances of you going through with that, if it's an uncomfortable thing, I mean, I don't know what statistically they are, but I would say that they're really low,
Mm-hmm.
because why would somebody want to put themselves in a position of discomfort if they don't have anything that they've kind of put up for it? So with coaching, like, I've done a lot of, I get a lot of questions on Instagram, and with my last job, I was in front of a lot of people and happy to talk to those people and happy to help. But there definitely was some that they're like, oh, I signed up for the free guide, or I did a, like a $20 thing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but I don't really, I'm not getting results, but I'm not really doing it. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to say. I would recommend either, committing fully to it, or maybe finding something else. I feel like if you don't have that piece of like, oof, it hurt to sign up for this. Like, I put my money up for this because I want a result. If you don't have that, you're less likely to follow through on that, because what does it matter? It doesn't matter if you do it or not, because you didn't put anything out there.
There's no loss, right?
Right. You're just like, well, that was fun. Which you would assume that people that get a scholarship would be grateful and would be, wanting to do it even more. But I think that goes back to the internal motivation, or that, that drive. If that drive wasn't there, then not having any friction with signing up, not having to pay for anything, still makes you feel like, well, it doesn't matter. I can just continue on because I didn't really put up anything to get here.
Yeah, half the time they would show up for the first 2, maybe 3 sessions, and then we wouldn't see them again, right? It was, and it was 100%. And it really was a bummer, because, you said you'd think they'd be thankful, and they all said thank you, but their actions didn't say that they were actually thankful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever found that? It's not how I need to ask that question. Just as far as like a magic way to help people, because we're always looking for that like magic thing to say or magic thing to hear that's going to motivate us forever. Does that exist, or is that just folklore?
I don't know. I mean, if it does exist, it's different for everyone.
Sure.
So I think it goes back to that whole asking more questions than you have instructions type. Like, asking, it's going down to, why are you here? What do you want out of this? What is, what's on the other side of this plan or this time? Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was a magic way to get, it's just making people care. And I really believe it is instilling belief, because when somebody has belief and they have hope, they're unstoppable. If you don't have hope, like, first of all, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to have hope that things are going to change. So in some way, not that we're in control of everything, but we have to have at least some belief in ourselves in order to do the actions that it takes to make a change. So as a coach, if you can find a way, and like I said, it's not the same, unfortunately it's different for everyone, but if you can find that way to instill that belief, then those things that they're hoping for seem a little more, in a little closer in the picture. Because I tell my clients all the time, motivation means nothing. Motivation is waning. You will not be motivated. You have to be disciplined. If you wait on motivation to get something done, you might get a quarter of it done, but it'll fail you. Motivation will fail every time. But if you build a system, you build discipline in it, just like when we say, not am I going to run, but when am I going to run, then you've already built your foundation up to where you know that you're going to do it because of the discipline, and you're going to do it even when you don't want to do it, because you are not letting motivation dictate whether or not you do what you say you're going to do.
That's so realistic, that whole motivation's going to wane, right? Because it does. There's some days where I'm just like, man, I want to get out there and run, or I want to get out there, ride my mountain bike, or I want to go fight some guys on the mats, right? But there's other days where I'm like, I don't really want to go run. I'd rather eat my Doritos. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. And nobody is immune to that. And that's what I try to tell my clients too. Like, you see David Goggins and like all these other people on Instagram or YouTube, wherever, we have everybody at our fingertips right now, and what everybody says, and there's so much noise, and people think it's this whole, I'm always motivated, and I'm always gonna, everybody who's out there working, they get up and they want to work out, and it's not true. Nobody is ever always motivated, but they've built it into their life to where it's a non-negotiable. They've built it in to where it's a norm in their life. It's not like this far away thing that we have to be motivated for. It's the thing that they just do because that's who they are, and that's what, that's how they've kind of built their life. But that's hard to change, or that's hard to institute if you're not used to that. If you haven't really lived your life like that, it takes a long time for you to kind of rearrange things to be like, oh, this is what I do. This is my daily habit. This is my weekly habit. Whatever it is, this is just what I do. It's not that I have to be motivated to do it. I'm just going to do it because that's how it goes.
I think about, as you're saying that, all the times that I have, I want to go ride my mountain bike, right? I've got to go put that bike in the truck, and I've got to load it in such a way that it's safe in there and protected, so it's not flopping around and getting dinged up. And then I've got to drive, 10 miles to the mountains where the trails are, and then, so there's a process of getting there, right?
Yeah.
But what I've found is, if I have my gear set up in a certain way in a certain place and it's ready to go, then it's less friction for me, right? I can just go, here's what I got. Let's throw it in the truck and I'm gone. And if I don't have all these other hurdles or feel like it's hurdles, just normal stuff I do, then it's much easier to get done. All right, you sweaty buggers. That liquid dripping off your forehead and down your back contains minerals that are critical for high performance. If you don't put those minerals back, you're not going to perform well. This is where Salty Electrolytes comes in. Salt contains 6 electrolyte minerals plus a touch of iodine to help you replenish after a hard workout. Salt is the only electrolyte supplement to pair every mineral with its counterpart, giving you the most robust mineral profile on the market, period. Head over to goearnyoursalt.com today to get some for yourself. Use the code GOEARNYOURSALT to get 15% off your first order. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah. One of the things I tell clients all the time is before you go to bed, put your running shoes, your outfit, your watch, headphones, whatever you're going to do, whatever you're going to use, even if you're not running first thing in the morning, but put them to the side somewhere. I like to put mine, our couch is kind of right outside of our bedroom. I put it on the back of the couch, like the top of the couch, so that I know when I get out of bed in the morning, I know my stuff is right there. I don't have to dig around in the dark. I don't have to see if my clothes are clean. I don't have to try to find my shoes or where did I leave my headphones. I take 2 minutes to gather up my stuff the night before, put it in a spot, and I know that it's there, so then when I wake up, it's there. And again, that friction, like you're talking about, is done. It isn't there, so I don't let myself start thinking, oh, well, it's going to take me 5 minutes to find this, and oh, I don't have this, or oh, I don't know where this is. Like, by being prepared, you're removing those things that could pop up, or you're removing kind of those speed bumps that are in the way between you and what you want to do.
It's like that little catalyst we use to talk ourselves out of stuff is a lot of times it is a 30-second task.
Yeah.
It's like, how long does it take me to put the little pad on my tailgate and pick my bike up and sit it in the back of the truck? It doesn't take long, but when I start going through all these little steps, well, I got to remember this, got to remember my shoes, I got to remember my water bottle. I haven't washed my water bottle. It's dirty. It's going to have to be. Yeah.
And next thing you know, you talk yourself out and you're sitting on the couch with Doritos.
That's it. And I go the wrong way. It's funny because just the other night I was trying to remember what I did, but I came home from jiu-jitsu and I was tired. I'd gotten some good rounds in and I was hungry. But this is like 9:30 at night that I come in the door, right? So it's late and I'm going, I should probably eat something. But then the thought literally crossed my mind that was like, I'd be much happier with myself in the morning if I don't eat something tonight.
Yeah.
Because all I'm going to do is eat and then not be able to sleep right because I'm digesting and then, I'm not burning many calories while I'm sleeping. So it's going to go the wrong direction. And I already did the hard thing.
Right. Yeah. My friend and former coworker Leanne, she had a saying. She was like, "What will your tomorrow self thank you for today?" So like, what are you going to be glad that you did today? So if it's laying your clothes out before, if it's not eating super late before you go to bed, if it's getting your truck ready to put the bike on it, like when you wake up tomorrow or in the middle of the day, whenever tomorrow, what are you going to look back and be like, oh, I'm so glad yesterday I took the time to do that, because then it just helps set you up, and then that keeps going. If you think about that every day, like imagine how much more productive or prepared we would be if every day we just took like a few minutes throughout the day and be like, what should I do today that's going to help me tomorrow? That would be like probably life changing.
Yeah, for real. So that thing, that little phrase your friend says, one of the things that I probably the best quote I ever heard in my life is that my life is perfectly designed to get the results I'm getting. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so good. But those little mantras, right? What's your mantra, Kelly?
Oh, I do like to think about like what will my tomorrow self thank me for today, and then a big motivation one. Well, I guess there's two, and they kind of work in different ways. One, it's I like to say like you're safe, you're just uncomfortable, and this comes in. This isn't everyday issues, but like let's say I'm running and it's like hard, or I want to quit something, or I'm nervous to get on a podcast or go talk to a business or go do something that I know is going to help me in some way in life, or make a big decision. Like I'm safe, I'm fine, I'm just uncomfortable, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. I think like, so much of our lives and just our culture and everything, we just want to be comfortable, which fine. Like I understand. I like being comfortable too. But then we kind of get scared when things are uncomfortable. But a lot of things you have to be uncomfortable in order to grow. So that one, it seems a little, I don't know, it seems a little deep or a little, not scary, but I find myself, knowing the difference between uncomfortable and safe. Like you're safe to do these things. It's just a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. Like giving yourself permission, I think a lot of times, to feel the things, because we get nervous. Oh my gosh, I'm anxious. My husband always says, because I tend to be anxious sometimes, and he'll say, are you anxious or are you excited? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm excited. Because they're the same. If you think about it, it's the same feeling in our body. Our body doesn't know the difference between anxious and anxiety and excitement. It's the same thing. We feel the same things. But if we tell ourselves, oh, I'm so anxious about this, how's the rest of that going to go, versus saying, I'm so excited about this? I guess also to answer your question, I don't have to, I get to. That's a quote that I really like to use for myself, for my kids, for my clients. Instead of saying, oh, I have to go to work today, I get to go to work today. Like, even if you don't believe it in that moment, fake it till you make it does a lot for mindset work. Like, instead of, oh, I have to run today, I get to run today. I woke up today, I have legs that move, lungs that breathe. Like, I am in shape I'm in a good shape that I can physically go for a run. I get to do it, like just shifting kind of the have to the get to, and then that layers on the gratitude with it. And my pastor said a long time ago, and I'll never forget it, he's like, you can't be grumpy and grateful. You can be one or the other, but you can't be them together. So it's like, what do you want to be? So I'll tell my kids that, and myself, do you want to be grumpy or do you want to be grateful? And so I know I just said like 4 of them, but they all kind of flow together.
No, I think we all have multiple, right? Because we're different situations almost have you have to have a slightly different phraseology for it. But I have a question for you. It's kind of a complete switch gears, so I apologize for the whiplash. But nutrition wise, right? We talked about eating and eating late in the evening, and what that does digestively and calorie burn and all that kind of stuff. What is your suggestion? So before bed, like how long before bed would you suggest people not eat?
Typically 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed is optimal, they say, for digestion and just digestive rest, to help with sleep and the stages of sleep and getting deep sleep and your body just really being able to rest. But also I keep that flexible because people have different schedules, and especially like I would hate for a client to miss out on the fuel that they need, especially a running client, to miss out on that fuel because they didn't get home till late, or because they're going to bed at a certain time. I think it's more important to make sure that you have the nutrition that you need in order to function over keeping a strict eating schedule. And especially when we talk about running and when I work with my performance clients, like, you are fueling your body for performance, not fueling your body for fat loss or for other things. So it all depends. My favorite answer for fitness and nutrition to every single question is it depends, because it depends on what your goals are. It depends on what you're working for. Because if you say my goal is to lose fat, or my goal is to run faster, or my goal is to get stronger, those are all different things. So you work within those goals for that nutrition. So yes, ideally it is great to eat to stop eating a couple hours before bed. But if that means you're going to miss out on 300, 500 calories that you need in order to, feel good the next day and to carry over that fuel, then I would suggest eating, even if it creeps a little closer to bedtime.
Mm. Yeah, that's a constant battle for me, and I know it can be, especially in the running world too. Is like what you're eating, because I'll tell you what's going through my head right now is I generally will try to eat about 3 hours before, especially jiu-jitsu events, right? Partly because I don't want to be gassy because it's a very up close personal sport, right? And you're being squished by other people, and so there's that quandary I get into where it's like I should really eat before I go. But even at 3 hours, it doesn't help me. Like I do find that when I get there, I'm still really gassy, and I'm like,
okay.
So what do you suggest nutrition wise? Because I imagine if you're part of a running group that goes in the evenings, you don't want to be that guy either.
Yeah, I would start looking at, because the timing of that is great actually, because what I tell clients, especially like if they're doing like a half marathon or a full marathon, to try and eat their first meal 3 hours before their race. So eating 3 hours before your class, I think, is a great timing wise. What I would focus on is the type of food that you're eating. Just keep track, like if you're like, oh, each time I eat this and I feel gassy afterwards, try to swap out some things, like just be more aware of how your body feels with those foods, because we label foods like healthy and unhealthy, but then, and there are foods that are better for you and foods that are not so great for you, but there are also foods that are healthy that cause more digestive, distress from some people than other people. So I would suggest try to find like what's your go-to meal that you can eat and you feel good afterwards. And that might take some guesswork, and you can try like 1 week try this or 1 week try that. But I think your timing is great, because I think that 3 hours before you're going to, go to class, I think that gives you enough time to have, energy from the food and then carry you through that time. But it would just be kind of trying to figure out what foods are best in that situation. Maybe change those up.
It's hilarious that you say it like that, because I'm laughing because I think, gosh, that's so obvious, but it's been a genuine thing where I'm like, man, I know that if I eat a heavy protein meal, I'm gonna be the gassy guy on the mat, right? But if I eat something,
and think about carbs. You want fuel while you're on the mat, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to move and all that stuff. So think about carbs. Protein is so important. Don't get me wrong. Protein is the king of macros. But when we're looking at a performance part or performance lens, carbs are your best friend. So the carbs are what's going to keep you with that energy throughout that time. So I would suggest, if you're going to do a percentage breakdown of a meal, I would suggest that meal to be like 45 to 50% carbs at least. And then let's say if it's, let's say like 55, I would say 50 to 55% carbs, and then only maybe like 20% fats, and then the rest lean protein. So getting about fats and fatty protein or protein, those are the two that are going to give your stomach the most like digestive distress. And those are what I tell my clients too before races. Like before races, we want to focus on, oatmeal or rice cakes, a little bit of peanut butter, but banana, some honey, things that are very carb heavy and not fatty. Fatty will definitely kind of make you feel bogged down. So if you focus on a carb heavy with a lean protein, and then, some fats, which would mostly come from, like, I don't know, let's say nuts or something like that, or avocado, something like that, and see how that feels with a more carb heavy instead of protein. And then save that protein for after you're done, have a protein heavy meal to kind of help replenish your muscles and also carbs to help with the energy.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny because I say that, it does sound so obvious now, because I do know that, like, oatmeal, I feel great if I eat that.
There you go.
But then also getting it through my head that I can eat that for not, later in the day, and that's not a breakfast food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So dorky that
I
we
like
get
to
tied
think
up
about
into
it as
that.
like numbers. Well, you do, and that's what I was talking about before when I was talking about acknowledging with clients these thought patterns that they have, because we've always been told, breakfast is this sort of food, lunch is this sort of food, dinner is this sort of food. Do you know what the Whole30 is?
Yep.
I did that years and years, probably 15 years ago. And I remember the one of the things that has stuck with me is they label it meal 1, 2, and 3. So that way you get in this mindset, because during the Whole30 I ate so much sweet potato and ground beef for breakfast. It was because you just think of things that are going to nourish you through the day, rather than being like, oh, it's, the morning I can't have a hamburger, or it's, nighttime I can't have oatmeal. Just looking at food as fuel and not necessarily putting it in little boxes kind of helps, especially when you have a specific goal. Your specific goal is to have energy while you're on the mat. So we want to make sure that the food that you're eating helps with that goal of your energy.
Oh, that's wonderful. It does. It's almost embarrassing to sit here and think, why didn't that occur to me earlier? But,
because you're probably looking at it from one way, and then that's why we need community. That's why you need to talk to people, because other people come in and they're like, hey, what about this?
I've only been struggling with it for like 8 years, hey. So oh my gosh. Thanks for the coaching advice there. I love it.
Of course.
So back to the coaching kind of life now. You're a running coach primarily now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So runners often deal with shin splints or plantar fasciitis, or these kind of things. Talk about how much the running technique has to do with those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think with that, and with a lot of things in fitness, we tend to think about, if you think about a pyramid, we tend to think about the very top. When we're thinking about fitness, we're like, what pre-workout should I have? What supplement should I have? What should I do? And we're not thinking about the bottom, which is like strength training and eating enough food, right? We want to focus on those little things. And I think with running, technique is definitely important. Shoes are definitely important. All of those things are important. What I really focus on in that performance triangle is with the nutrition and the training. The training's not just running. The training is strength training, because a lot of people, and I was one of them too. I say I have 2 running use that loosely, 2 running time periods where I started running. It was right when I was first pregnant with Kate. So let's say it was 15 years ago. And I was not strength training. I was just, a friend was like, hey, let's run a half marathon. Okay, I couldn't run more than 2 miles. I was a horrible runner. But I was like, let's do it. So that accompanied with, I had bursitis in my hip. My knees hurt all the time. I would go for a long run and then spend the next 30 minutes on the couch with frozen cranberries, on my knees and whatnot. But I just thought that was normal. That was just part of, running. And so then I stopped running for a while. I had my second, and then I started running again a couple years ago. And in that in-between time, I'd become a personal trainer. I started coaching clients. I learned the importance of strength training, and I learned the importance of strength training across other modalities and how important it is. And so now what I really focus on, and now as a result, I run faster, I can run longer, I don't have the pains that I used to. I mean, things ache and all that, normal, but it's a world of difference as before, because the foundation is strength training. And I focus a lot with my clients on a lot of unilateral moves. We focus on ankle strength and mobility, focus on with your feet, lifting in socks if you're at home or barefoot if you can, just really with your toes, just kind of from the ground up, how everything is connected. So technique is super, super important, but first, more important than that, is having that foundation of knowing that, like, if your glute is weak, that's going to show up on your knee. That's going to show up either on your opposite ankle. That's going to show up, in different ways. And the mechanics of your hips. And if your glutes are weak, then your hips going to dip each time. When we're running, we want our hips to be, parallel and kind of stay in the same plane. And we have weaknesses. That's when it starts to go kind of side to side and things pull. So really focusing on unilateral movements, making sure the strength training is complementing the running. And then from there, we talk about, having that slight lean forward, the way your feet should hit the ground, the length of your stride, your upper body, and kind of what's all involved. But it really starts with that basis of strength training and just how important that is in order to be able to progress with your speed and your endurance.
Yeah, it's cool you bring that up, because I remember I was training for a half marathon, and I was able to go 8, 9, 10 miles at the time. I was kind of at that depth into it and feel pretty good about it. But one day my neighbor invited me to go on a run, just a short run. It was 2 miles, 2.5 miles, something like that. And I knew he was not a runner, but he's trained strength all the time. He was a pretty jacked dude. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to outrun this guy, so I'll take it easy on him. And that guy outran me, so I couldn't keep up at all. And I was, I'm sucking wind, like pushing my limits.
Right.
And this guy that only does strength training just dusts me. By the time we got to the end, we get to this last kind of, it was about a half mile back to the house there, and he goes, "Hey man, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go a little faster for this one." And I was like gutted. I was like, "Holy crap, man!"
Right.
So that importance of strength, it's kind of occurred to me then. It's like, oh, okay, it's not all about just being able to go long. There is something about that. So.
Right. And there's also a natural ability kind of component of it too. A lot of people, I think in all realms, we play this comparison game. It's real easy to hop on Instagram and be like, oh my gosh, this person is running a 6-minute mile and this person is doing this and that. And so, it's always good to keep in mind, everybody has different abilities. And everybody's worked for, you don't know how much work somebody's putting into it, right? But with your friend, what you're saying, if somebody's got the strength and they have the lungs, even if they're not a runner all the time, especially a shorter distance, can definitely humble you sometimes. I feel like that with my husband. I tell him, if we have more than 3 miles, I could take him, but under 3, and he doesn't run nearly as much as I do, but he's been, an athlete his whole life, and he's just got that short sprint. Like, he's got the speed to start with. Now I can take him if we keep going. I've got the endurance. But I remember as I first started, I'm like, how are these people so fast? And some people, they're just, I don't know, they're faster to start with, but it doesn't mean you can't work at it.
Yeah, there is that place where as athletes we have to come to that you do you sort of a thing, especially in the running world, right? Because there are those super freaks out there, and we all see them when we get involved in a race where you're like, I'm not even halfway and you're finished already. How?
Yes. You see them come back and you're like, you see like the little police like motorcycle and the person right behind them.
Oh, I've been there so many times. I got the first race I ever did that was an organized event. There was a speed walker in there, and I didn't realize how fast speed walkers are. I figured somewhere, a speed walker could maybe pull off a 10-minute mile. No, this lady was like 7:20s.
Yes. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it.
It's impressive.
I also tell people, though, on the other end of that coin, when people tell me, like, oh, I could never run, because I feel like you hear that when you tell somebody you run or whatever, people are like kind of polarized. Either like, oh, cool, or they're like, oh, I hate running, or I could never run, or whatever. And I'm like, if you're serious about it, if you don't think you could run, find a local race, 5K, 10K, half marathon, whatever, and go stand at the finish line. Watch for, 20, 30 minutes, and then tell me you can't run. Because what you will see people older than you. You'll see people heavier than you. You'll see people not as able-bodied as you are. You'll see people with a prosthetic leg. You'll see people with like walking canes. You'll see even they have those some people, they'll have an assisted runner with them. If it's like a blind person that's running, they'll have a companion that runs with them. Like, you will see the gamut, and you cannot tell me, now you can tell me you don't want to run, I'll take that as an answer.
Yeah.
But you cannot tell me that you can't, because
Right.
you'll see all these people that do it, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, if I want to, I know I can. So it's one of those surprising things of, you don't realize, you don't know how many 7-year-old men and women like I've chased to try to just be like, just finish in front of this one, and they're ahead of me like almost the whole time.
Well, that was an eye opener. So the first mountain bike ride I ever did, right? There was this gradual incline up to the base of this hill, and it was on the trail system where it's kind of the first actual climb that you have to do. And in hindsight, it's not even that much of a climb, but at the very first ride I ever did, I rode up the gradual incline to the base of the hill, and I was gassed. I had to push my bike up the actual incline. Well, I get to the incline, to the top of this thing, and my buddy's up there waiting for me, and I push my bike up the whole thing. And this lady comes riding by me, and she's got to be 5'2", 250 pounds. She was thick, and it was like, but she pedaled up past me and kept going and climbing. I'm just watching her go, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Huge respect.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, it's motivating to you too, because you're like, oh, well, shoot, if they can, there's no reason I can't.
Yeah. She made it look easy. It wasn't even like she,
Right.
I thought she'd be all like worked up, and maybe she was, but for me, I was over the edge, right? I was done, and
Right.
she still had gas in the tank, so that was cool.
That's awesome.
Now, you had talked about being self-employed as a coach. I want to kind of go into that a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Now, all of a sudden, your livelihood is depending on this. It's not a job anymore. It's not that you're working for another company, but now it's all on you, Kelly. So let's talk about that as a career choice.
Yeah. So I think it was exactly a year ago today that I left my former job and decided that I was going to, well, really I kind of took off the summer and spent a lot of time with the girls, and we did a big road trip and all these things, and then kind of getting into it more in the fall and through the winter. Like, now I'm figuring everything out, whereas before I did one part of a business, and now I'm figuring out how to make the website, how to do the the landing pages, how to do set up the workflows and all of those things. So it's definitely been a learning experience. It's been fun, actually. Well, more fun some days than others to figure it out. But it's also been a journey of figuring out exactly what I want to do. And it kind of, when you asked earlier about having to fire a client, when I first was deciding to kind of go out on my own, and granted, I'm in a very nice position to where my husband works, and I'm able to kind of take a little more time right now to figure out exactly what I'm doing. And I know that's not always the case for people, like when they decide to do their own thing. So I want to preface it by saying, like, I know I'm in a really good spot, a privileged spot, to be able to kind of figure this out as I go. And I kind of started at the first, I wanted to be everything to everyone. I had just left a position where I was doing filming workouts that were going out to thousands of people all over the world, and I loved that. And that kind of, I also did that when I was teaching group fitness. And so I wanted to do, the strength training workouts, and I wanted to help with running, and I wanted to help with nutrition. Like, there were all of these things. And then as I sit there and try to make a website, I'm like, well, this is confusing even to me. I don't even know what I'm doing. So I really had to figure out, okay, what exactly am I doing? What do I want to help people with? How do I want to kind of use the gifts that I've been given to best help people? How can I do that? And so that's where it's kind of really led into kind of narrowing down the focus of running, of coaching, mostly women through running training plans, and then kind of beyond that. And like I said, I still do with all of my plans and all of my coaching. Strength training is a non-negotiable. It's always in there. So now it's the putting myself out there on online, it's talking to, people in my community, it's getting out to run clubs, it's being more visible, more involved, because I spent the last almost 6 years visible, but not really promoting anything of my own. I didn't have that pressure and vulnerability of like it being my thing, right? I was able to promote something of somebody else's, which there's a little more safety in that, because if somebody doesn't like it, well, it's not mine,
It's not yours
per se, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely growing in the fact of like kind of knowing that I need to, be confident in what I'm doing, and just kind of putting myself out there more, which is, not always fun, but it's a good growing opportunity.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. In fact, before I go on to that, that vulnerability, the aspect of social media, you use the word privilege. You're privileged enough to be able to. There's always that hump. If you want to start your own thing, you cannot, on very rare occasions, do you start that thing and have an income the next day. That's super rare.
Yeah.
So there's a hump. There's this kind of dip you've got to get through. And talk about, you use the word privilege. I wonder, I kind of question that a little bit, because yes, it's a privilege, but it's also being wise in that, because I think we can be just flat out unwise when we have this dream, we have this vision, but man, maybe we quit the job too early. Maybe we need to run that as a side hustle for a while and be smart about this entry to this thing. So I don't mean to be critical there, but I think, it's privileged. It's cool that you can just jump right in. But had you not had that backdrop or that safety net of your husband's job, you would have had to figure out a different way to do it, and you would have done it with the job, right? So is it privilege, or is it just you're using good wisdom? Both.
You're totally right. And that's where I kind of wanted to be, because I don't want it to come across as like, oh yeah, I quit my job and then took, 8 months to figure out what I was doing, because that's not always feasible. You know what I mean? For people to be able to do that. So yes, I love how you pointed that out. And that's how it was, because if it was different, then I would have spent all that time figuring out. If I knew that I was going to leave the job that I was in to pursue something else, I would have spent that time in tandem, figuring out what I'm doing and all that, to be able to kind of take that leap. My leap is just, it's a little slower than that, but I do think it has given me time, like I said, to really figure out what I want to do, and I'm grateful that has happened, because I will admit it was really hard, because it was last May, and then it ran right into summer, all busy and all this and everything. Then it kind of slowed down in the fall, and I started to like really question, like, what am I doing? I really felt like I was supposed to leave. I was supposed to pursue something new, in a new way, and coach people in a different way than what I had been doing. And don't get me wrong, I loved what I did, and I gained so much from that job, and the people and the clients and everything. And but I just knew it was time for something different, and I felt that very clearly. But then I kind of had a little time of a little bit of doubt of like, well, are you sure that this is what I'm supposed to do? Because I haven't really felt that again of like, this is what I need to move forward with. So it's been this kind of game of like waiting and having faith in like what I feel like I'm supposed to do. But I do think that it has helped me to really define where I'm going. And that way, now that that's defined, I can really pour into that. And I think that makes me a better coach, and I'm more helpful to people if I know specifically what I'm doing and I'm not chasing all of these other things. Because if I'm your coach and my mind is like preoccupied with, oh, should I be doing this or should I go this way, then I'm not as much of a benefit to you than somebody who is defined in what they're doing. I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing before I can help you figure out, what you're doing. And I don't want to do my clients a disservice by being kind of all over the place. So I do feel like I've had time to figure that out, and that's been figured out, and now it's really kind of like boots on the ground. All right, how is this going to work? How is this going to grow? And what do I want this to look like now that it's kind of more established?
I don't know if you realize the truth wisdom bomb you just dropped. So some of the best business advice I ever received was exactly what you just said, that you have to know who your client is and exactly what you're doing for them, because some people fit that and you can really help them. But if you try to help somebody outside of that, it's going to be a diluted form, and they're never going to
Yeah.
be, you're never going to serve them well, so they're never going to be truly happy. Right. So you
Yeah.
defining who you are and what you want to do, and then going solely after that, will create like super happy customers and super happy clients, right? So,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't even know if you realize what you just said, but that's some of the best business advice anyone listening to this could ever hear.
That's
Define your
awesome.
client.
Because I feel like as you were asking the questions, and again, I'm glad that you kind of stopped me on the privilege thing. It's been something that I've had in my head and I've known, but haven't really like said it. You know what I mean? Like put it in that string of words. And so it kind of cements the fact of like, oh yeah, this is what's happening.
Yeah, I think with so my wife and I, we own another business that's in the automotive. It's a mobile oil change company, right? And
Okay.
when we started that, it's almost been 20 years. It's been, I think, 18 years now ago that we started that. But it took me about 3 years or so before I really defined who my client was.
Mm.
Now we have it written out, and we say small local companies with 50 vehicles or less.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that, like, it narrows it down. So now when someone calls me with a personal vehicle, says, "Hey, I need an oil change," I tell them no. And I
Yeah.
don't I don't try even to earn their business. I refer them to someone else because I've defined that. And man, it's
Yeah.
now we have hundreds of these really happy customers
That's awesome.
because I don't serve the people who I can only halfway serve. I serve the ones I can
Right.
serve all the way. Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyourSalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyourSalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a hard lesson to learn because you want to, a lot of times, at least my personality, you want to be like everyone to everything to everyone. And you feel like if you say no to somebody, then like, oh no, you're missing out on, not only are you missing out on their business, but you're disappointing them. Like you're not helping them. And a lot of times the best coaches I know, most all coaches I know, especially in the fitness world, want to help people. You get into it because you want, to help people. So by being able to like be confident in that of like, these are the people that I help and this is what I'm going to do, it doesn't mean you're not helping them. You're not able to help them in the best way that you could. So it's, the better thing that they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's a good way to.
And I love
Okay.
having someone I can refer them to, right? Where I go, hey, I can't help you. I'm not the guy for you, but this guy right here, go talk to him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you, when it comes to coaching and advice, when it comes to running your business or running your fitness, do you take your own advice?
Oof. Not as much as I should. I try to. I think, well, I should rephrase that. I think when it comes to like a big decision, yes, typically, but little things in the moment, like I'll do, and then things will happen. I'm like, wait, why is that happening? Oh, well, because I didn't do, whatever I would tell a client to do. I think we get so busy in the day to day and the little things that we have to do that we kind of get on autopilot, and we don't really think about, at least for me, like, think about some of the things. And when you take a step back and look, you're like, oh, then you give yourself a second to be able to follow that advice, as opposed to, it just coming natural. But also with that, like the more I feel like as a coach, the more I coach people, the better I am, because it's that whole like the best learners are teachers. So I remember in my classroom, like one of my favorite things to do after we've done a lesson is have the students teach their classmates. And being able to walk around and hear a student be able to teach another student, tell them how they learned it, even if it was a summary from a story or whatever it was, that first of all the kid feels like they're in charge, or it could be a kid or an adult. They have some ownership from it, and they have to have retained it enough to be able to give it back out. So I feel like for me, I always notice, like, I'll get off coaching calls or whatever, and I get this like new pep in my step, because it's like, you're able to coach somebody, but a lot of the times there's a majority of the things you're telling them that you're really telling yourself. So it's good. It's a good reminder of the things that are true and that work, and you're helping your client, but you're also kind of getting that little extra pep talk or self-coaching moment, by being able to help them. You're also helping yourself.
That's like a perk of being a teacher or an instructor, isn't it? Oh, I love it. I love it. So back to social media and the vulnerability there, right? Mm-hmm. For years, I thought anyone who was on social media was sort of a diva who just wanted some attention. That is not what it is it?
No. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there.
Sure.
Social media is such a funny thing, because it can be so good, and it can be so damaging. Like I said, I have a almost 14-year-old daughter, and she tells me she's the only kid her age that doesn't have a cell phone, but there's reason for that. And then we've also talked about social media, like that's not going to be on the table until years later. And I've told her, because even as an adult, navigating social media and what to take from it, what to leave with it, how to interpret it, it just adds so much more to your life to worry about, that you shouldn't have to. There are good things, but we're just being fed all of these things. So my goal with social media, and I've only over the last 4 or 5 years have gotten into social media from my previous job, was a way to connect with people, is what I would use it for. And now with promoting my business, and I just have a lot of people that, like, I don't know in person, but I feel like they're friends because we talk, on through DMs, and I see what they're doing and they see what I'm doing. But if I can use it as a way to help people, to inspire, to educate, to motivate, people, and then also to help people feel like seen, because a lot of times as a coach, like we were just talking about, when you're coaching your client, you're also coaching yourself, or like we're going through things that they're going through, but people might not know that. They might think everyone on Instagram, it has their stuff together, or if you're talking about something, it means you don't have any problems. So I think it is good in the way of, like, you can connect with people, but you also have to kind of have a guard up of, like, this isn't real life. Some people are more real than others, and I personally try to keep it, very authentic, and kind of what you see is what you get. But not everybody's like that, and so you can quickly start to compare. You can quickly start to say, from a business point of view, from a athletic, running, nutrition, all of those things, you can be like, well, this person has this many followers. This person is selling this much stuff. This person looks like this. What am I doing wrong? And then you can kind of spiral with that. Or you can look at it as, how can I shut out that noise and use this platform to help other people? And what can I take from other people on this platform that's going to help myself? But just, you have to it's hard to get that lens, that filter correct all the time.
You use the word authentic, and I think that's a huge thing, right? Because we can sniff it out when somebody's not. That was something when I started this podcast that I was really afraid of. And what made me hesitate, because I'm like, I'm kind of dry, deadpan sometimes. I can be very dry in the way I speak and facial expressions and that kind of thing. So I thought, well, what kind of almost like a character can I put on?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's not sustainable for me. So you said it earlier, you get what you get. You're just going to get Riley. And there's no character, right? I'm going to talk the way I talk. I'm going to have whatever presence I have, and I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. So take it or leave it.
Like,
and it may fail,
like
but
you said,
okay.
yeah, it's exhausting to try to be something else, and I feel like people can tell that too, and that was a big lesson I feel like I've learned also in the last few years, especially being in a position where I was in front of people a lot more, thinking that I had to have a certain personality or do things in a certain way. And that was first of all, it's like trying to figure out, what does everybody like, or should I be this or that? And then it was just blatantly clear, like, you can't do anything. If you are so worried about what everyone else thinks, you're going to stay in exactly the same spot. Like, you're not able to progress, you're not able to move. If you're listening to all of these voices from all these different sides, or they might not even be voices, they can just be made up. You think that they think that. You're assuming people feel this way. And if you go with that, you're just going to stay still. Whereas if you just be you, if you're just, here I am, this is what I do. And especially, it's easy when you love what you do. It's easy when you love what you're talking about. Like you with this podcast, like you enjoy, interviewing people, you enjoy hearing stories. So you don't have to put on a front. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you just do what you enjoy doing, and you're able to do that in your own way and not have to worry about, because not everybody is going to like you in any capacity in life. There's always going to be people in some way or another that don't like you, and nobody likes everybody, So that was a thing that I had to kind of get over, because I would read comments, or, the internet is a strange place. And when a reel gets I've had a couple reels go like viral, but I don't see any good in that. But like, people were commenting outside of like my kind of little nice Instagram world, and I'm like, who are these people? Why are you so mean? Like, I was like, I can't do it.
We had a guy that got on one of my episodes and started threatening the guest. Like, they got in this little thread,
no.
and I didn't catch it for like, I don't know, 48 hours or something until afterwards. And I jumped on him like, oh crap, this is going down a bad path, threatening his life, like threatening to hunt him down and kill him.
Oh my
It was a
gosh.
wild thing, and I'm reading these comments and like, how is this absolutely, I from my end I can block all that stuff, and did, but
Right.
it's like, yeah, the internet's a weird
It's
place,
wild. It is. It's wild.
It's how do you filter out in your brain those negative comments, right? Because we'll get 100 positive ones. Now, one negative one sticks with us for some reason.
Yep.
How do you deal with that?
It's hard. It comes down to like knowing who you are. So I have developed a very strong sense of who I am and my identity. And having that kind of helps put a gate, a wall around what other people say about you. Not saying that it still doesn't bother you. Like, I probably could rattle off if not all, most of the negative comments that I've read about myself. So it's not that they like don't bother you, but having that strong sense of identity, of this is who I am, and knowing that not everybody is going to like you. That was the biggest thing for me, is that it's okay if somebody doesn't, like, they don't have to. But yeah, just that identity. And for me, that comes down to like my faith. So I'm a Christian. So knowing that like my identity does not lie in what other people think about me, for the last few years, has been a really big thing, that, just keeping that front of mind, like, that's okay. You can think that. And, if I felt like I did something, to make somebody feel negative, that's one thing. But if it's just, me doing whatever, then it's just kind of like, they say bless and release. Like, that's their opinion, and just kind of filter that out and replace it with a positive. One of my former coworkers and best friends, she told me about a feel good folder. And so you take like any nice comments or DMs or anything like that, and like take a screenshot and make like a folder in your phone of like compliments. And she's like, next time, you get like a bad comment or a negative something, like going back to the feel good folder and kind of reading, to kind of pep yourself up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I love it because you alluded to sometimes things people say have an element of truth to them, right? And generally, the really hurtful things have an element of truth to it. Now, that's why they sting, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, you're kind of right in some way, but being able to discard the rest, right? So take the lesson, discard the rest, and don't let that person live in your head, right there.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. Sometimes, a lot of times those ones that like you really keep ruminating on, there's probably more truth to it than you think. And so those I do feel like, that's a good opportunity for growth and for, okay, if this person sees this. And there was one comment where somebody said something about the way I was acting, and then I asked a few people, I'm like, when I say that, does this sound this way, or, do you feel this or whatever? Because it's one of those things, like, I never want what I'm saying to have a negative impact on somebody if I'm not saying it correctly. I don't want to do that intentionally. I wouldn't do that intentionally. And if there's something that I'm doing that I'm not aware of, then I'd like to know. But when it's 1 out of, 55,000 or something, it's a little different.
Yeah, for real, right? And that's the thing. It always amazes me how much we let those 1 in 55,000 affect us. Like, man, did we not pay attention to the other 50,000 comments?
Exactly. Exactly.
Excuse me. Let's switch gears here a little bit. I have some lighter questions, and as we sort of bring this to a close, when you hear this podcast is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, right? Mm-hmm. It's the tagline of our electrolyte company, and it's what we decided to name the podcast. What comes to mind when you hear the term Go Earn Your Salt?
So the first thing that comes to mind is like after a run, like a summer run, because that feeling like you're real sweaty and then the sweat kind of dries and it's all salty. Like that's what I think of, like a hard workout, a hard run, something to where like there's just salt coming out of your pores. That's basically the visual I get when I think of Go Earn Your Salt. Like go do something to where you are putting yourself out there, you're exerting yourself to where you need to be replenished in that way.
Beautiful. Kelly, what is your favorite pastime?
My favorite pastime, I would say probably camping with my family. We have an RV, and so we like to go to some of the state parks in Florida. A lot of them have springs and alligators. But just that.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. Being able, even though if it's just like an hour or 2 hours away, it feels like a complete disconnection. Like as soon as we get to like a campsite and set up the RV, it's just this sense of calm, and there's nothing to do, and it's just really great family time.
Love it. What is something quirky about Kelly that most people don't know?
Oof. Probably the amount of songs that I like act out and sing in the kitchen or the living room. My husband calls it acted out Kelly. And my girls, I don't know, just very dramatic with the lip singing.
So you put on a show every time your jam comes on, huh?
Basically, yeah.
I love it. Okay, what's your favorite naughty food?
Ooh, well, I'm on like a Bluebell ice cream kick right now. So I would say cherry vanilla Bluebell ice cream, to be very, very specific.
If people are not from the South, they don't even know what that is. The Bluebell homemade ice cream, right? The little jingle starts going through my head.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yes. So ice cream, I guess we could say that.
No. I don't mean to say Bluebell special. It's good. It's really good ice cream.
Bluebell is like the best ice cream.
Yeah. But that's it's fun because I've spent enough time in the South with my in-laws that I've seen that commercial on TV. That little jingle they have.
Yep.
It's great. Great. Kelly, do you have a nickname?
No, not really.
No nicknames.
No. I'm trying to think. Nothing that's ever really stuck.
You are blessed in that. I love it.
I used to, my maiden name is Kane, so like through high school, people call me KK, but like that kind of left after
After
high
you got
school.
married? Love
Yeah.
it. Do you, the scariest moment of your life?
Ooh, I thought these were light questions.
Yeah, this
Scariest
one I
moment of
should
my
put
life.
it. I should put this one somewhere else maybe, but no, it's
Disclaimer.
not very light. You're right.
Um, oh my goodness. I'm not sure if this is the first thing that comes to mind, and it was recent. I could not find my youngest daughter for like 30 minutes, and I thought she was like lost.
Mm.
We were at an event, and she went one place, and she was with friends. I mean, she was fine. It was actually at the tennis club that my husband runs, and it's a very familiar place. But they were having an event, and she had gone over to play with somebody at the event, and then like literally there was like 8 of us looking for her, and she was just on the other side of somewhere. But it was like, as a parent, that feeling of like you really don't know where your child is like in that moment, so your mind starts like spiraling. So I will say, like, there probably were scarier things before, but that's the most recent. Like,
Oh, we had one of those one time. We lost our son. He was 4 years old, and he was a good bike rider at that time. And we were on the green belt, and we took this little loop around this little dirt trail that went off the green belt. And I waited because I knew he'd circle back around, right?
mm-hmm.
But at some point I was like, I think it'd be fun to go follow him. I could catch him. Well, I didn't catch him, and when he came out, he went past the point where I was and just kept going. So we came back around to the original meeting point, and no kid. And we're like, where did he go? And turns out 35 minutes later when we find him that he had ridden a mile and a half or 2 miles the other way before, because Lindsay and I split, and we both
gosh.
went hauling butt
Yeah.
both ways, and I come across him about a mile away, but he had gone down and turned around, came back. But yeah, at some point our 4-year-old was miles from us on the Boise
Oh
green
my
belt.
gosh.
So
Was
I
he
hear
just
you
like
on that one.
chilling when
Scary.
you saw him?
What's that?
Was he just like chilling when you saw him? Or
Oh, he was totally
like,
fine. Yeah,
Oh my
totally
gosh.
fine. He just like, I had a good
That's
ride. I
crazy.
went down
Yeah.
here. So we said, take us to the point where you turned around. And when we did, we're just like, we're going forever. How did you get that far, kid? Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I hear you. That'll
Yeah.
get your heart going.
Right? Yeah.
Most valuable learning experience you've had?
Most valuable learning experience. I think probably my first stint as a teacher, being a special ed teacher, just learning how to help and teach such diverse modalities and students just in such different places, if that makes sense. Like being able to, I learned so much about how to treat people, I guess I should say. So, which I think really helped me with coaching and being a trainer, just learning that like not everybody learns the same way, not everybody thinks the same way, like being able to differentiate instruction with a group of people, and just kind of the compassion that you have to kind of learn through working with students with disabilities. I feel like having that kind of chunk of my life, having that experience in the degree for it, but then also the in classroom experience really has helped me in areas beyond in my life that I wouldn't have thought that would have carried over to.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that happen.
Yeah.
Kelly, who in your life has influenced you the most?
I would say my husband. I feel like he has all of the things that I am not as good at, or the kind of character. I feel like he's the opposite. You know, the opposites attract. We're definitely opposite in like some personality traits, but I have learned so much about how to interact with people and treat people, and he's much more the dreamer and the I don't think I'm pessimistic. I say I'm realistic, but he's definitely much more of
So
the
all pessimists say.
optimistic. Yeah, exactly. But I feel like he's just influenced me in a way of like things that I wouldn't normally think. I see him doing those things, and it makes me be more aware of like, oh, okay, in this situation, maybe I should, you know, be more like this or be open to this. He's much more open and trusting, and I don't know, he's an awesome guy. And so there's a lot of traits that I there's a lot of things about him that I want to be more like, because I think it's a he carries kind of some things that I lack. So I would say probably my husband.
I love it. I love it. Kelly, what's an item on your bucket list that you want to do before it's all over?
I want to do the Grand Canyon, like the rim to rim of the Grand Canyon.
As a hiker, as the race, because there's both, right?
Yeah, there's both. I'm not quite sure yet because I don't exactly know what it entails. I've never even been to the Grand Canyon, but I had said I was going to do it before I turned 40, but I turned 40 last October and it hasn't been done yet. But it's still on the list.
Oh, that would be a cool one. I agree. That would be really cool. I've got a friend that does jiu-jitsu with me that he goes and hikes it.
Yeah.
Like every year, every other year. And I keep telling him he needs to pack
cool.
me in his suitcase when he goes. So.
Yeah.
Do what's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice, just in general, for life. This is a saying that I used to dislike strongly up until probably a couple years ago, but fake it till you make it. And I will say, because I always thought that was a cop-out. I was like, I do not want to fake anything. Like, if I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, or whatever. Or if I don't know how to do this, why would I pretend like I did? But then the more I got into, like, owning a business, growing in a career, parenting, all those things, I'm like, nobody knows it all. Nobody knows everything. We're all just trying our best. Like, so the idea of fake it till you make it, it kind of is that mindset thing of like, you know what, I might not know everything right now, but I'm going to tell myself I know enough to get started. I know enough to take the next step. So not necessarily like fake it in a bad way, but you know what I mean? Like, I have a tendency of getting in my own way, of like stopping myself. Like, Kelly, you don't know everything. You can't do that. Like, what are you thinking? But instead of doing that, more of like, hey, I'm going to put it out there, and then we'll see how that goes. And then I'll learn something and I'll do something else. So I would say probably fake it till you make it. I feel like it's a good like thing for my head. Like, you're going to do this anyway, and you're going to figure it out. You don't have to have it all figured out first.
Yeah, you know, that again, there you go, dropping these wisdom bombs, right? Because every business owner I've ever, not just business owner, every leader of any kind I've ever interviewed or just sat down and had a cup of coffee with, we are all winging it. I just hear that as a common thread. We're all making up. So that's the definition, I think, of a leader, is someone who's you're first in line. There's no someone ahead of you, so you don't have necessarily an example of what to do. So you're winging it, right? That's how that works. So it's something we don't always think about when we enter a new venture or a new business or a new we're discovering stuff for the first time. So here we go.
Because we think somehow magically the people before us had it all figured out. But it's like, wait, how did they get there?
Yeah.
They were winging it too. Like,
they did exactly what you said, right? They tried something, and they learned a lesson, and then they tried again with that new information.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Kelly, what's your favorite book of all time?
Ooh, favorite book of all time. It's either The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, or... Do you mean fiction or nonfiction?
It doesn't matter. Your favorite.
Okay. The Hiding Place or The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is like a World War II like realistic fiction book. I think they're making a movie into it.
My aunt Pam, she loves The Hiding Place.
Yeah.
I've never read it myself, but she's talked about it so much that I feel like I have.
It's one of those books. I mean, it's hard. It's about the Holocaust, and it's about, it's hard things to read, but it's just one of those like stories that you're riveted by. But it's a great book.
Mm. Oh my goodness, Kelly, what's the next challenge? Where are you going from here?
Physically, like a physical challenge.
Physical, life, business, wherever. Yeah.
Well, I have signed up for a High Rocks in October. Oh, High Rocks. So it's they have them like all over the world. They're coming to Tampa in October. And so what you do, there's 8 stations, and there's a 800-meter run in between. So it's kind of like a CrossFit kind of CrossFit Games, but not really. So you have to do. There's a ski erg, a rower, weighted lunges, sled push, sled pull, wall balls, burpee broad jumps, and there's one more. But you have to do all 8 of those. In between each station, you run 200 meters, and they have singles, doubles, and a relay. And so 3 of my girlfriends and I are doing the relay in the fall. So I'm excited about that.
Is it spelled HYROX?
Yep.
Okay, I've been seeing that. So a former guest on here, Annalisa Rowe, she's been posting about that.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't process what it was, but it looks like she's doing a lot of CrossFit type activities getting ready for it.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. And everything I've read, it's like your biggest training thing is to run on tired legs. Like being able to continue running when your legs are tired. So we're going to do that in October. So that's kind of my 2026 kind of physical goal. And then really the challenge now of just growing Chall Performance Coaching and growing that and building up kind of my client base for that and seeing how many people I can help achieve their running goals and really just pouring into that.
Wonderful. Kelly, on the social media world, where can you be found?
I am on Instagram. It's Challkel, CHALLKEL. That's where I am the most active.
Awesome. Do you have a website?
I do. It's challperformancecoaching.com. That's a little bit under construction, but it's there.
It's there. Okay. Awesome. Listen, I sure appreciate you coming on. It's been an awesome conversation because you have said some things that, again, one will help me personally, but then as far as audience goes, I hope you guys understand some of the real wisdom, the real gems that were stated in this podcast. That was fantastic. You gave us some really good stuff, so I appreciate you, Kelly.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I love what you're doing with the podcast and with the salt. And my daughter, I will tell you, her favorite is your electrolytes. Oh. We have a plethora of them to choose from.
That makes me so happy. So, all right. Well, listen, keep up the good work. We'll see you out there on the interwebs, and in the meantime, go earn your salt.
Thank you.
Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.